The obstacle is the way. Chapter 1. What stands in the way becomes the way. An old Zen story tells of a king who wanted to teach his entitled citizens a lesson. He placed a large boulder in the middle of the main road, blocking entry to the city. For days he hid nearby, watching as many complained but didn't try to move the rock. Finally, a peasant on her way to town took a different approach. She pushed and pushed against the boulder, and when that didn't work, she found a large branch in the nearby woods to pry it out of place. Obstacles are frustrating, unexpected problems that prevent us from doing what we want to do. These days, obstacles can take many forms, like problems at work, lack of financial security, or romantic troubles. And for many of us, when presented with an obstacle, it can be tempting to give up. But obstacles can actually be advantageous. In the words of Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius, 121 to 180 CE, what stands in the way can become the way. Aurelius faced war, plague, and betrayal stoically, without complaint or displaying feelings. Like other Stoic philosophers, he believed that the impediment to action advances action. We can turn obstacles into advantages. This is the lesson best-selling author and host of the podcast, The Daily Stoic, Ryan Holiday teaches in The Obstacle is the Way. Pulling from Stoic teachings, Holiday teaches us how to approach hardship and turn challenge into opportunity. Whatever blocks us can empower us to find a new route to success, a new path to where we want to go. Holiday outlines a three-step discipline for overcoming obstacles: perception, action, and will. To begin, we must adjust our perception, how we view obstacles. After seeing obstacles in a new light, we have to determine which action to take, how we break obstacles down, persist, and resist. And finally, we must strengthen our will, the internal power that pushes us to persevere through difficulty and defeat. In the following chapters, you'll learn how to use these steps to both expect and overcome obstacles without getting stuck when they arise. And you'll see how some of history's most successful people, from Amelia Earhart to Alexander the Great, have used Stoicism to battle adversity. Chapter 2. Perception, creating and destroying obstacles. Situations, by themselves, can be neither good nor bad. Our perceptions, how we see and understand what occurs around us, are what give us the power to create and destroy obstacles. When we perceive a situation as being too difficult to handle, it becomes an obstacle. But when we ask ourselves, how can I benefit from this, we can turn every situation into an opportunity. Before he became one of the world's richest men, John D. Rockefeller was a bookkeeper and aspiring investor on track for a successful career. Then came the Panic of 1857, a national economic depression in the United States. Most people panicked and made hasty financial decisions that led to disaster. Rockefeller, however, saw a chance to learn from a rare economic moment. Rather than succumb to emotion, he took the opportunity to gain rational insights by watching the volatile stock market closely. He ignored widespread, uninformed market speculations and instead invested in the growing oil industry. And by 1877, Rockefeller controlled over 90% of the oil in the United States while his competitors struggled. Nothing forces us to feel one way or another. We give in to our emotions based on how we perceive situations. But, when we do this, we add to our troubles, panicking and fumbling over even the smallest hiccups. Or we end up avoiding our obstacles, and thus our goals, entirely, out of fear. If we remain calm, present, and objective, we can take our situation at face value and see it for what it really is. One way to do this is to describe things with contempt rather than euphemism or hyperbole. Marcus Aurelius used this common Stoic practice to strip away the legend that encrusts luxurious items. To Aurelius, roasted meat was a dead animal and vintage wine was old, fermented grapes. You can use this as a guide for objectively perceiving anyone or anything that stands in your way and strip problems down to their essentials. For example, many of us have experienced job hunt fatigue, the physical and emotional exhaustion that arises as we apply for countless jobs. When you let this fatigue take over, the application process starts to feel like an obstacle, something blocking the path from you to your dream job. But restraining your emotions can let you see this process for what it really is, a step toward your ultimate goal. Hiring managers need to find somebody to fill a role, and they are hoping that the next person they vet is the right one for the job. Applications and interviews, therefore, are opportunities for you to solve their problem. In this scenario, think of yourself as someone with something special to offer, the solution to a hiring manager's problem. Once you take this perspective into an application or interview, you can come across as confident, rather than defeated. And this objective viewpoint will provide you with a simple, clear path towards your goals without making you feel blocked along the way. Chapter 3. Action, it starts with a yes. In the 1920s, Amelia Earhart wanted to be an aviator. At the time, aviation was a male-dominated field. While working another job to make ends meet, Earhart got a call asking her to fly as the first female passenger on a transatlantic flight. Although this wasn't what she wanted to accomplish and she wouldn't get paid for the opportunity, Earhart knew that it was a step toward her ultimate goal. Holiday argues that it's worth doing whatever you can to get closer to achieving your goals, even when circumstances aren't ideal. Less than 5 years after Irha took that first step, she became the first woman to fly solo non-stop across the Atlantic. The path towards our goals is not always linear. But it's crucial to take that first step, even when it may seem like a detour. This can be as simple as thinking yes, let's go, when an opportunity arises. Saying yes to opportunities is a good place to start, but other obstacles can arise down the road. When this happens, it can be easy to let frustration get the best of us. Instead, Holiday suggests that we behave like water. When rivers come up against a dam, they don't remain stagnant. Instead, they continue to push against the obstacle, and the energy this generates can fuel power plants that run surrounding cities. We can be like water, too. Instead of being passive or giving up, keep surging forward to make it to each small goal, your next meal, paycheck, or day. When you really focus on taking one step at a time, even the largest tasks will become just a series of component parts. So stop. Take a deep breath. Break your process down. Say yes to the opportunities that arise and then complete the immediate action in front of you. And the next, and the next. Use your frustration and pent-up energy to power you from one task to the next, in an orderly, connected thread. Chapter 4. Action, using obstacles against themselves. We often focus so much on using brute force to move us in a straight line towards our goals that we forget there are other ways to progress. If we can't just say yes, that doesn't mean we should give up. Sometimes restraint, taking an alternate route, or taking a brief step back can help to combat obstacles. As a young man, Alexander the Great was given the task of training his famous horse Bucephalus. Others had tried to train Bucephalus using force, beating him with whips and tying him down with ropes. But they had no luck against his energy and strength. Alexander, however, saw Bucephalus's weakness, his own power. Patiently, he left Bucephalus to run back and forth until he exhausted himself. After using all of his energy in the angry sprint, Bucephalus had no choice but to submit to Alexander's influence. And for the next 20 years, Alexander would ride into battle on his trusty steed. Some adversities seem impossible to defeat, no matter how hard we try. But keep in mind that there are multiple ways to get to where you want to go. In moments like this, it can be beneficial to leave our obstacles to defeat themselves, instead of wasting energy pushing against them. All that matters is whether your approach gets you closer to where you want to go. The obstacle can also be the way forward. In 2008, while Barack Obama was running for president, controversial remarks on race made by his pastor led voters to question Obama's own socio-political views. At first, this scrutiny threatened Obama's chances of winning the presidential election. However, Obama did not ignore this obstacle or distance himself from it. He followed his advisor Rahm Emanuel's strategic advice. Obama used the scandal to draw a national audience and talk about race issues in America in his famous "A More Perfect Union" speech. In doing this, he showed how adversity can be used to propel us forward. Following Stoic principles, Holiday argues that when crises such as failures or accidents arise, we should use them. Is there something you've always wanted to do? While crises are awful, Holiday argues that they can be used advantageously. Maybe you're out sick from your day job, stuck in bed recovering. Holiday views this as time you can use to start moving toward a goal you've had in mind. Or maybe you're experiencing painful and overwhelming emotions. Holiday remarks that you can turn these feelings into creative material. According to Holiday, we shouldn't waste the crises in front of us by feeling tired, disappointed, or sorry for ourselves. Instead, we can use moments of adversity as opportunities to get ahead. Chapter 5. Will, building your inner citadel. The final step to overcoming your obstacles relies on your will. If perception and action are disciplines of the mind and body, will is a discipline of the soul. Ancient Stoic philosophers demonstrated the concept of will through the analogy of the inner citadel. Thought of as a fortress within each of us, the inner citadel cannot be broken down by external adversity. It is always within our control. While you can try to control your perceptions and actions, external factors can still derail your efforts. According to ancient Stoics, however, will is unaffected by outside forces. It is an internal power that drives us to persist. We're not born with an inner citadel, but we can build and reinforce one throughout our lives. This can be done by following two Stoic practices, premeditatio malorum and amor fati. These phrases might seem pessimistic, but in them lies premeditatio malorum, the Stoic practice of anticipating the worst and preparing our inner citadel for attack. Premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils, means thinking of all the things that could go wrong in any given plan. Before a trip, for example, Stoic philosophers like Seneca would write down all possible obstacles. A storm could arise, the ship captain could fall ill, pirates could attack. And as a result, they would be able to expect the range of potential outcomes. When we do this, we can ready ourselves for any outcome or obstacle, so we're not caught off guard or disappointed. With anticipation, we're ready to raise defenses or even avoid obstacles entirely, thus strengthening our inner citadel. A step further than just anticipating challenges, the Stoics believed in a practice of embracing their struggles, amor fati, the love of fate. Amor fati is the act of seeing everything that happens as good or, at the very least, necessary. To understand this love of fate, think of Thomas Edison. At age 67, Edison's entire laboratory burned down, causing $1 million, over $23 million in today's dollars, in damages and destroying a lifetime of work. But Edison remained calm, praising the situation for getting rid of a lot of rubbish. He accepted his fate and started fresh. And, with a clear mind and reinforced inner citadel, Edison worked hard and made a profit that year equal to over $200 million today. After understanding that certain things are outside our control, we can then choose to love whatever happens to us. Following amor fati stops us from approaching obstacles with the dull acceptance of just, I'm okay with this, or I think I feel good about this. Instead, we can greet our obstacles with a love of fate, I feel great about this. It was meant to happen, and I am glad that it did when it did. I am meant to make the best of it. When you think you've successfully overcome one obstacle, another will no doubt emerge. This is outlined in a famous Haitian proverb. But by managing your perception, action, and will, you can scale the mountains you come across throughout your journey, over and over again.